Yes, Henry Ford and Hitler were pretty good buddies. In fact, Adolf Hitler had a picture of Henry Ford on his desk. It is believed that Henry Ford funded the beginnings of the Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler's rise to power. So when the Nazi Party was still small, Henry Ford was one of the main contributors to the party and really led to it being the foundation that it had for Adolf Hitler to, rise to power. Adolf Hitler even saw so much potential in Ford that he claimed that he would like Ford to become the head of a fascist movement himself inside of America, and that he would do whatever it would take to help Ford rise to this. Now, all this going back and forth, Ford obviously had his own ideas that aligned very similar, very close with Hitler, such as Ford believed that the Jews and the Jew bankers caused World War I. He believed that the Jews were behind FDR's New Deal. He also believed that the Jews caused World War II, or they were causing the dooming conflict. And he even had his own newspaper where he would publish these, opinions. And he would even end up losing a lawsuit where he'd have to apologize to the Jewish community on his comments. But obviously this did not change, and he continued to share his opinions and was a pretty fascist guy, if I do have to say so myself. And even a lot of people will say, well, it's not really Ford's fault because, he's trying to make money. He's in the money game. He's in the business game. He's a capitalist. Germany had the biggest market, so why wouldn't he go after them? Well, for that, I would say there are multiple occasions where Ford was actually offered to manufacture planes and cars for Europe, but he just simply declined because he obviously thought very highly of Germany. Not like there was a bigger market there. There's obviously a lot more countries in Europe and the European allies and stuff like that. So you can't just say, oh, well, it wasn't a big market outside of Germany. There was a big market outside of Germany, but Ford just decided not to partake in that. So, yeah, Ford did not appreciate democracy. He was more of a fascist himself. And then, a lot of people will say, well, why would this be? Why is this the case? Well, because, Ford is a system of the capitalists. But, I think it's just really the good old saying, the people in power want to stay in power. We could say, well, he's going to be in power. He's one of the wealthiest men of his time. Well, even the thing that people don't understand about communists is that, the idea of communism is that, everybody gets the same. The people at the top still have a lot more power than the people at the bottom. You think Joseph Stalin was living off breadcrumbs? No, the people at the top have way more power. Even in the communist societies, the people at the top are still going to have way more power. So he felt like if a communist society, a fascist society, something like that, the ideals of him remaining and keeping his power were a lot higher than that of democracy. He was afraid of the labor unions and stuff like that. So, yeah, that was pretty much his whole ideology, keep the power, keep the business money. And this is one of the reasons I'm not a big Ford guy. People joke all the time and say that Ford sucks. Well, Ford, the automobile company, might suck, but the guy who created it, he sucks even more. So, yeah, even later in life, Henry Ford's assistant was a German spy that was gathering information. So yeah, not a good guy at all. And then even later, one of Henry Ford's grandsons, the people who were running the business, got put on trial. The federal government put him on trial, or they were going to put him on trial, but something happened. But yeah, so if it's a big enough deal where the federal government is looking into you, it's not good stuff at all. So yeah, just the next time you go and you're thinking about, man, what car brand do I want to buy? One, you probably shouldn't buy a Ford because, just general Ford stuff. And then just think about Henry Ford. Next time you're about to go buy a Ford, do you really want to support a guy that had a picture on Hitler's desk? Anyways, I'm not saying you can make your own decisions, you can buy your own cars or whatever. But yeah, Henry Ford was a big Hitler guy. Him and Hitler were buddies. That's going to be about for today. Stay safe and stay hydrated.